Love in the monsoon. What's your favorite color? The question hung in the air like a ripe mango waiting to be picked. Green. The girl with the big eyes replied without hesitation. How original, the other girl teased with a smirk. They sat in the shade of the schoolyard's only tree, their laughter a stark contrast to the sound of Mumbai's relentless traffic. Her name was Pooja, a girl who owned the school halls with her poise and charm. Born into the upper echelons of the city's real estate empire, she had the world at her fingertips, or so it seemed. Across the dusty playground, amidst the jostling of less privileged children, was Kavita, the oldest of three, whose family barely made ends meet with her mother's wages as a maid and her father's meager earnings from the sugarcane field. Despite the stark differences in their lives, fate had thrown them together at the prestigious St. Agnes School, where scholarships and connections allowed Kavita to study alongside the elite. Their friendship grew from shared lunches and stolen glances during math class into a bond that transcended the invisible lines drawn by society. They found refuge in their shared love for books and the quiet moments of understanding that passed between them unspoken. Kavita's mother, Radhika, had been a maid for Pooja's family since before Pooja could walk. This long-standing relationship allowed the girls to spend time together outside of school, weaving their lives into an unlikely tapestry of friendship. But the whispers of destiny grew louder as time passed. Pooja's parents, proud of their daughter's academic prowess, had grand plans for her future, a top college in Canada and a marriage to a wealthy young man studying in the US, a perfect union of families and finances. Kavita, on the other hand, faced the harsh reality of her family's financial struggles. Her parents pressured her to quit school and help support her brothers, insisting that her education was a luxury they could no longer afford. The weight of this burden grew heavier with each day that passed. Yet, Kavita's spirit remained unbroken. After school, she'd slip away to the bustling markets of Mumbai, working at a clothing store to save for her own future, a future that she hoped would somehow include Pooja. Her mother, weary from years of hard work, didn't understand the depth of her daughter's ambition, but knew better than to stand in the way of a dream that shone so brightly in her eyes. One fateful day, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow on the schoolyard, Pooja approached Kavita with a secret that had been growing inside her, threatening to burst forth. "I think I might love you," she whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of the words. Kavita's heart leaped into her throat. She had felt it too, the unspoken yearning that had grown between them. But she had kept her feelings tightly guarded, fearing the rejection that could shatter her world. I think I love you too," she managed to reply, her voice a mere breath. Their confession hung in the air, as sweet and potent as the scent of jasmine that wafted through the open windows of the school. They stared at each other, the gravity of their words sinking in, unsure of what the future held for two girls from such different worlds, who had dared to love in the face of insurmountable odds. For a moment, they were lost in their own universe, a bubble of love and hope that seemed to float above the cacophony of Mumbai's streets. They held hands, their palms sticky with sweat from the relentless heat, and promised to find a way to be together, no matter the cost. But as quickly as the bubble had formed, it was pierced by the cruel realities of their lives. One of Kavita's brothers, Rohit, had stumbled upon her diary, its pages brimming with secret love poems and sketches of Pooja. His eyes wide with shock and confusion, he confronted her after dinner one evening, the single light bulb casting stark shadows across their small, cramped home. Kavita felt the earth shift beneath her feet. She knew the truth could tear her family apart, a truth that neither she nor Pooja had ever dared to speak aloud. Her heart raced as she searched for the right words, trying to explain the love that had bloomed within her, a love that she hadn't chosen but could no longer ignore. Rohit listened, his expression a mix of disbelief and anger, before storming out of the room, leaving Kavita to face the silence that echoed through their house. Her mother looked at her, a flicker of understanding in her eyes, and for a moment, Kavita felt a flicker of hope that perhaps she might be accepted. But the hope was short-lived as Radhika sighed heavily and said, "We will talk about this later." The days that followed were a blur of hushed whispers and averted glances. Kavita felt the burden of her secret growing heavier with each passing hour. She knew that her family, bound by tradition and the expectations of their community, would never accept her love for Pooja. And Pooja, caught in her own web of familial obligations, could only offer silent support, her heart torn between her love and her duty. The pressure mounted as Pooja's parents announced the engagement to their wealthy friend's son, a young man named Rishabh, who was studying abroad. The wedding was set for the following year, after Pooja's graduation. It was a match that had been in the making for years, a union that would cement the family's status and secure their future. Pooja felt a cold hand close around her heart. She knew that she could never love Rishabh the way she loved Kavita, but the thought of disappointing her parents was unbearable. The night of the engagement party, as the sounds of laughter and celebration floated through the grand ballroom, she found herself in the quiet solace of the garden, tears streaming down her cheeks. It was there that Kavita found her, her eyes red and her cheeks flushed with the weight of unshed emotion. They embraced, their bodies fitting together like two puzzle pieces that had finally found their match. "We'll find a way," Kavita whispered into Pooja's ear, her voice filled with a determination that seemed to light up the dark corners of their world. And so, in the heart of Mumbai's chaotic embrace, two young women held onto each other, dreaming of a future where love could conquer all, even if it meant breaking the very fabric of the lives they knew. Little did they know that their love was about to be tested in ways they could never have imagined, pushing them to the brink of despair and beyond. The months leading up to Pooja's engagement were a whirlwind of preparations and painful silences. Her mother, noticing her daughter's lack of enthusiasm, grew increasingly concerned. She tried to reassure Pooja that marriage to Rishabh was the key to a life of comfort and respect, but the girl's heart was elsewhere, in the crowded streets and the humble home of her love, Kavita. Kavita, meanwhile, worked tirelessly at the clothing store, her thoughts often wandering to Pooja. She'd save every rupee she earned, her mind racing with plans of escape, a small flat, a simple life together, free from the shackles of expectation. But every time she broached the subject, Pooja would pull away, her eyes clouding with doubt. "My family will never accept us," she'd say, the words a knife to Kavita's soul. The night before the engagement, unable to bear the thought of a life apart, Pooja made a bold move. She confessed her love to her parents, the words spilling out in a rush that left her trembling. Her mother's eyes grew wide with shock, her father's face a thundercloud of anger. The silence that followed was deafening, filled only with the distant wail of a train passing through the city. Her parents' reaction was swift and severe. They forbade Pooja from seeing Kavita again, insisting that she focus on her impending marriage and the future they had planned for her. But love, like a wildfire, cannot be so easily contained. In the quiet hours of the night, the two girls would find solace in each other's arms, their whispers of love echoing through the empty schoolyard, a promise that no one could ever take away. The engagement day dawned hot and unforgiving, the sun a fiery reminder of the day's significance. Pooja, dressed in a resplendent sari, went through the motions, her heart a heavy stone in her chest. Kavita watched from afar, her eyes never leaving Pooja, her love a silent beacon that pierced through the noise and the glitter of the celebration. As the ceremony reached its crescendo, the air grew thick with tension. Just as Pooja was about to place the ring on Rishabh's finger, she paused, her hand shaking. She searched the crowd for Kavita, their eyes locking across the sea of faces. And in that moment, she knew. They couldn't live these lies anymore. With a strength she didn't know she had, Pooja turned to her parents and called off the engagement, her voice strong and clear. The room fell silent, the air thick with disbelief and anger. But she didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped down from the stage, her hand reaching out to Kavita, who rushed to her side. Together, they faced the storm of their family's wrath, the barriers that had kept them apart crumbling before their very eyes. They knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, that their love would be tested in ways they couldn't yet fathom. But as they held on to each other, the world around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the warmth of their embrace and the promise of a future where they could love freely without fear. Their journey had only just begun, but with each other by their side, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The whispers of the night grew into a roar as they walked away from the grand hall, hand in hand, their hearts beating in sync with the pulse of the city they called home. Their families were a wall of anger and disbelief, but the strength of their love was a force that could not be ignored. Pooja's parents, unable to comprehend her rejection of their carefully laid plans, disowned her. They packed her bags and sent her away to live with a distant aunt who had always held a soft spot for the rebellious girl. Kavita's family, while shocked, ultimately embraced her with a fierce love, recognizing the depth of her feelings for Pooja. Her mother, Radhika, took her aside and spoke in hushed tones, "I may not understand, but you are my daughter, and I will stand by you." The days turned into weeks and the weeks into months. Pooja and Kavita's love grew stronger, nurtured by the trials they faced. They found refuge in a small apartment in the heart of Mumbai, a place where they could be themselves, free from the judgments of their past. Pooja took on a job at an NGO, using her family's influence to make a difference in the lives of those less fortunate. Kavita's artistic talents blossomed as she began to sell her paintings at local markets, their vibrant colors reflecting the love that had transformed their lives. Their days were filled with the sweetness of their newfound freedom and the bitterness of the battles they had yet to win. They faced discrimination and prejudice, but their love remained a bastion of hope. They became beacons of courage for others in the LGBTQ community, their story a whispered tale of love and resilience in the narrow lanes of the city. One evening, as the monsoon rains lashed against the windows, Pooja took Kavita's hand and spoke the words that had been nestled in her heart since that fateful night. "I want to marry you," she said, her eyes brimming with emotion. "I want the world to know that we belong to each other, no matter what anyone says." Kavita's smile was like the first light of dawn after a stormy night. "I want that too," she replied, her voice filled with a quiet certainty. They knew the road ahead was long and fraught with challenges, but the thought of a life spent together was worth every step. And so, amidst the chaos of Mumbai's bustling streets, two hearts entwined in a love that knew no bounds, they began to plan a wedding that would shake the very foundations of their world. A wedding that would not just be a declaration of their love, but a revolution against the societal norms that had tried to keep them apart. They were ready to fight for their happiness, ready to show the world that love, in all its forms, was a beautiful, unstoppable force. Their journey was far from over, but with each other, they had found the strength to conquer the unconquerable. And as they lay in bed that night, the sound of the rain outside a gentle lullaby, they knew that together, they could weather any storm. Pooja's disownment had not been easy, but it had given her a newfound sense of purpose. Her aunt, a woman of surprising open-mindedness, became their rock, offering them not just shelter, but her unwavering support. Under her guidance, Pooja channeled her anger into advocacy, using her family's connections to push for LGBTQ rights and education within the city's elite circles. Kavita's art grew bolder, her paintings now telling the story of their love and the struggles they faced. Each stroke of her brush was a declaration of war against the ignorance and prejudice that surrounded them. They held exhibitions in underground galleries, the walls adorned with their shared dreams and the whispers of those who had found solace in their tale. But as their love grew, so did the whispers of dissent. The rich girl who had turned her back on her family's legacy, the poor girl who had chosen love over duty, their story was a scandal that had the city's tongues wagging. Yet, they remained steadfast, their love a beacon that drew others like moths to a flame. One such person was a young journalist named Anika, whose own heart had been shattered by the confines of tradition. She saw in Pooja and Kavita a mirror of her own struggles and a chance to share a story that could change hearts and minds. Together, they plotted a media campaign that would showcase their love, not just as a declaration, but as a symbol of hope for all those who dared to love against the tide. Their wedding day approached, a day that would not only unite them, but also serve as a battle cry for their community. They knew it would be a day of joy, but also of defiance. The air was thick with anticipation as they stood before their friends, their families, and the cameras that had gathered to capture this historic moment. The ceremony was a fusion of tradition and rebellion, a tapestry of colors and emotions that reflected their journey. As they exchanged vows, the rain outside paused, as if the heavens themselves were holding their breath. And when they kissed, the applause was deafening, a sound that echoed through the streets of Mumbai, a sound that said, "We are here, and we will not be silenced." Their love had become a movement, a beacon of hope for those who dared to dream beyond the barriers of class and sexuality. They had not just broken the chains that had bound them, they had forged a new path, one that others could follow. Their lives, once separate but now forever intertwined, continued to unfold in the bustling heart of Mumbai. They faced challenges, they faced heartache, but in each other's arms, they found the strength to keep fighting. For love, for acceptance, for a future where their story was not one of exception, but one of the rule. And as they looked into each other's eyes, the promise of a brighter tomorrow reflected in their gazes, they knew that no matter the storms that lay ahead, their love would be the anchor that held them firm. Together, they had set sail on a journey that would change not just their lives, but the very fabric of the city they called home. Their wedding was a declaration of war against the status quo, and the battle lines were drawn. The local media picked up their story, and soon it spread like wildfire, reaching the ears of those in power. The reactions were mixed. Some applauded their bravery, while others condemned their impurity. But amidst the din of opinions, Pooja and Kavita remained steadfast, their love a testament to the indomitable human spirit. Their union brought forth a newfound sense of unity within the LGBTQ community in Mumbai. They became the face of a revolution that had been simmering beneath the surface for too long. They marched in pride parades, spoke at rallies, and used their platform to help others find their voice. Their love was no longer just a whisper in the dark, it was a roar that could not be silenced. But love alone could not pay the bills. With Pooja's family support gone, the couple faced financial strain. Yet, they found solace in their shared ambition and the support of their newfound family, the friends and allies they had gathered along the way. They worked tirelessly, Pooja at the NGO and Kavita with her art, turning their apartment into a bustling hub of activism and creativity. Their days were long and their nights even longer, but the warmth of their love filled every corner of their lives. They faced each challenge as a team, their bond growing stronger with every hurdle they overcame. And as the months turned into years, their love story became a beacon of hope, inspiring others to fight for their right to love freely. Their marriage was a statement, a declaration that love knows no bounds of class or gender. And as they grew together, their love grew too, encompassing not just themselves, but the community that had rallied around them. They became more than just a couple. They were the embodiment of a dream that refused to die. In the end, it was not just their love that triumphed, but the love of those who had dared to stand by them. The whispers grew into a chorus, and the chorus grew into a roar. The barriers that had once seemed insurmountable began to crumble, brick by brick, as hearts and minds opened to the possibility of a world where love was not a privilege but a birthright. Their story was no longer just about two girls from different worlds finding each other. It was about a city that had learned to love more freely, a society that had taken a step closer to embracing its diverse tapestry. And as they lay in bed at night, their hearts beating in sync with the pulse of the city, they knew that their love had not just survived, it had thrived, leaving an indelible mark on the very soul of Mumbai. Their journey had been tumultuous, but it had been theirs, a love story born from the chaos and beauty of the city that never sleeps. And as they drifted off to sleep, the sound of the rain outside a gentle reminder of the storms they had weathered, they knew that together, they could conquer any tempest that came their way.